Blockchain Applications and Supply Chain Management. This is for group TBD 6 for MBAD 6141, Professor Ya. Group members Emma, Justin, Stephen, Bilal, and Natalie. When you go to the grocery store with your shopping list, cruising down each aisle, selecting meat, milk, eggs, fruits, and vegetables, you just select the best looking item, put it in your cart, and pay for all of your items, get home, put them away in your kitchen, and then start cooking dinner. How often do you stop and think about where the apple came from, what pesticides were used, or where did the tuna come from, and what fisherman caught it?
Supply chains are the lifeblood of any business organization. They connect suppliers, producers, and final customers in a network that is essential to the creation and delivery of goods and services. Basically, supply chain is a sequence of organizations to connect their facilities, functions, and activities which are involved in producing and delivering a product or service. The sequence normally begins with basic suppliers of raw materials and extends all the way to the final customer. Just like the slide shows, a typical supply chain is composed of natural resources, and then human extraction of raw material, and then through different production links, the raw material become components, and then through assembly and merging, they become final products. And then by storage and transportation, these final products reach final customers. And then facilities of supply chain include warehouses, factories, processing centers, distribution centers, retail outlets, and offices. Managing the supply chain is a process of planning, implementing, and controlling supply chain operations. The basic components are strategy, procurement, supply management, demand management, and logistics. Logistics is a big part of the supply chain. It is about forwarding and reversing flow of goods, services, cash, and information. The goal of supply chain management is to match supply to demand as effectively and efficiently as possible. As far as functions and activities of supply chain, it includes forecasting, purchasing, inventory management, information management, quality assurance, scheduling, production, distribution, delivery, and customer service. Every business organization is part of at least one supply chain. Often the number and type of organizations in the supply chain are determined by whether the supply chain is manufacturing or service-oriented. The slide shows two typical supply chain. One is manufacturing, one is service. Obviously, the manufacturing supply chain has more processes in the flow than the service supply chain. However, the structure of the two supply chains are basically the same. Flow management is an important aspect of supply chain management. There are basically three types of flows. The first is product and service flow, which involves the movement of goods or services from suppliers to customers, as well as handling customer service needs and product returns. Second is information flow. It involves sharing forecast and sales data, transmitting orders, tracking shipments, and updating order status. The last one is financial flow. It involves credit terms, payments, and consignment and title ownership arrangements. Technological advances can enhance the ability to effectively manage these three flows, and thus facilitate the ability to coordinate the supply chain activities better.
What is blockchain? It's an emerging technology that links all business transactions between parties in a running accounting ledger. This accounting ledger is stored in the cloud, and therefore there is no need for traditional manual documentation going back and forth. Coolest thing is that all the parties that are involved within the transaction can add and write on the blocks. However, for security purposes, they can only access the blocks that are applicable to them. For example, a distribution company that would be transporting goods can only see information regarding loads that they're transporting. Blockchain decentralizes historical supply chains. There's no more need for an intermediary between a manufacturer and a buyer. This increases the transparency, verifiability of the data, traceability, and security. And parties can't change the terms of the agreement unless all parties agree on the terms. The improvement is that it increases partnerships within the supply chain. It improves trust. And since everything is stored in the cloud, there's no need for manual documentation. And it just makes the overall process much more effective and efficient. Suppliers and buyers can alter supply and demand quantities in real time. Applicability to our case is that Walmart, for example, sells a lot of spinach and lettuce. And what they're requiring is that a lot of their vendors input information into the blockchain so that they can determine if the product is actually organic, etc. Also, they can trace it down to the actual, grow cycles of how that food was harvested. And if there's defective product, they can catch it in real time and reject it, receive credits, also switch to a different supplier so that there's no shortage in inventory, maximizing customer service.
So we are discussing the incorporation of blockchain into supply chain for groceries, and especially we are targeting tuna fish tracking. And the scenario we have comprises of three participants. One is Elise, who is a fisher who catches tuna. Then we have Bob, who is a restaurant owner who buys tuna from Elise. And then we have Carla, who is a regulator monitoring that tuna has been legally and sustainably caught and resold. Moving on to the next slide. This is where the catch and sale happens. When Elise catches a fish, she'll create a record of the fish on the blockchain, and when she'll try to sell the fish to Bob, the transaction will be recorded on the blockchain. Moving on to the next slide. It's where the monitoring and queries happen. So Elise, Bob, or any other participants like Carla can query the blockchain to retrieve specific information that could be list of transactions or the tuna owned by specific participants to provide the sustainability and legality portion of the trade which we are trying to accomplish through blockchain. Thanks.
In the agricultural and fresh food industries, sustainable practices and verified sources are critical to a brand's reputation. In this case, Chipotle found that out the hard way, where the FDA investigated Chipotle for a multi-state outbreak of the E. coli virus. Now, this particular situation had an immeasurable detriment on their business. Stock values plummeted, and further yet, Chipotle's growth had been hindered, leaving Chipotle's reputation tarnished. This was a huge hit on their P&L. They lost customers for life and lost a lot of money. With the use of blockchain, the defective chicken could have easily been detected and rejected prior to reaching the customers' bellies. Credits for the defective product would be issued in real time. And lastly, a backup plan for use of the separate supplier could have been simultaneously executed through a smart contract, resulting in eliminated or reduced production downtime due to the lack of inventories.
After listening to Stephen discuss the E. coli outbreak at Chipotle, it really opens up the conversation for all of the opportunities for supply chain improvement with blockchain. If supply chain incorporates blockchain, there are several ways it can improve. Number one, blockchain will give retailers and customers the ability to verify ethical harvesting and gathering practices and protocols. Number two, blockchain and supply chain can verify organic practices as labeled by the suppliers. Number three, blockchain has the ability to increase efficiency of supply chains for grocers. By allowing participants to adjust supply and demand requirements in real time and allow one another to see inventory levels, it makes the need for a middle distributor non-existent, as well as reduces lead times. Number four, blockchain has the ability to improve auditing practices and protocols for grocers by providing search and find capabilities along with real-time inventory numbers. And number five, finally, blockchain and supply chain management helps protect customers. Whether that is the end user purchasing tuna at the grocery store, Chipotle purchasing food to feed their customers, or retailers ensuring they are providing safe products. With blockchain, grocers, suppliers, and distributors have the ability to identify defective products and remove them from their shelves as fast as possible. Rather than watching an E. coli outbreak occur and restaurant stocks plummet due to the inability to control and locate defective product. In conclusion, blockchain allows parties involved in a contract the ability to navigate the supply chain of their industry effectively and efficiently. They'll be able to make decisions quicker, adjust changes to supply and demand with ease, and protect customers by stopping defective products before they reach their grocery cart. The biggest benefit of blockchain and grocery supply chains is that all parties will benefit from its numerous capabilities. Thank you for your time.